Thank you for remembering that. So we're recording and I believe we're live, but I just wait for it to pop up on the screen here. So, all right, great. Now I come back to this one. All right, there we go. I got it. So let's begin. So, hi everyone. Last night, Sister Nya and I, we went through a psychological evaluation of the actual psychological evaluation by another that was approved by the judge and used in court against. Yeah.
Oh, I have to change it. It's not a psychological evaluation. It's a methodical evaluation of the psychological evaluation.
All right. All right. Thank you. Yeah. So a methodical evaluation of the psychological evaluation. And with that, what I wish to say is, and let's say what was used in court against Nya as a result of this other evaluator, he just tore it to shreds. And also, I knew this, but the benefits of this is having an outside source come in that didn't know as much or the background about the case and was able to very quickly and readily see all of the deficiencies in it. And it shows the professionalism, the expertise by this professional. And having said this, it should have been present and prevalent within the justice system with the judge, the psychological evaluator, but also all of the levels of the Austria government, ombudswoman, and all of these levels that were also contacted along the way with the case of all of this pertinent information. And this procedure was done this way because it was definitely just absolutely so obvious that there was a due process denied, abuse of power, obstruction of justice, even to the point of omitting and tampering with evidence. So it's a very serious criminal case. It's not a family court matter. It's actually a criminal case against the legal system itself to allow and to condone these actions causing negligence and actual psychological and even at least physical harm indirectly. That is proven to the extent that Aurora had got Nya's child daughter had got a significant bruise with a cut on her while in supposedly the supervision of the child care services. Nevertheless, it is physical harm as well, which has been at least documented by Nya, a picture taken of it. And when requested the doctor's report or what was the procedure when the Child Crisis Center uh, had knew that this bruise happened, and apparently it occurred when the father was allowed to have the children in his custody. Yet at that time, the children were still under the supervision and supposedly the immediate care of the Child Crisis Center, which actually makes it obligate. What's the word? It makes them responsible. in the least, just to keep it simple for everyone instead of going deep in it. Um, so just jumping back quickly, psychological stress, the impact upon Sister Nya, and also the stress put upon the children. However, in this case, Nya's children were advanced in consciousness and in their own ingenuity, so they were able to build up a strength, much more than let's say a normal or a stressed child would be able to do. So they held their strength as a result of the great duty of care that Nya was providing for, and also educating the children with higher reasoning and higher consciousness and morality. So they were able to keep their emotional state in such a high regard with all of this as well. And having, again, that complete trust on mom to get them out of there. And so they had that trust and they didn't want to cause stress for mom, if you will. So they patiently waited and still have that trust yet today. At this point, the children still have not been returned, and with every passing moment, there is further incrimination that is going, that is happening, because it's now showing further intent as this begins to escalate. Um, let's say we said earlier having ripples, but with Sister Nya today, no, it's having waves. We're beginning to see very significant effects, not only in Austria, but worldwide. Uh, Let me say in Austria, what Sister Nya said today, something in the news about their prosecutor's office. So looking like a big shuffle or something occurring there. But let's say they have a huge problem right at this time, the entire prosecutor's office of Austria. And again, they have lost their jurisdiction as a result of not only this case, when other mothers and parents in Austria realize what happened and are educated just a little bit more, or even educated by watching this, the realization will be that the parents become the actual prosecutor, like Sister Nya has become in this case, but also the universal jurisdiction, which is enacted into full law, and any contravention or attempt upon that universal jurisdiction also is a very serious offense, meaning that there is, if not immediate repercussion in the near future, there has to be a repercussion. If not, it nullifies and voids international law, but all of the laws of the nations themselves that allow it to continue, because each nation on earth has a moral obligation and a duty when they see inhumane acts happening in another country that is part of, let's say, the UN Convention, the UN rights that have signed that. It becomes the responsibility of a genuine, or all other genuine nations, to stand up and support the eradication of these huge crimes, not only against individual rights, but against all of the civilians in that nation. And in this country, what is occurring as a result of this lien that we will get in, typically taxpayers are responsible for paying the liens. And one of the reasons why with this, but listen to this, because really the taxpayers do not need to pay the lien, because the actual truth is that money is actually made out of thin air by the government of Austria, but like all governments worldwide. So having said this, but what it does do, it puts the moral obligation and responsibility upon the actual citizens of Austria to stand up to um, not allow this to occur any longer in whatever lawful ways that this will be. It's obvious for I and others that this is a tyranny within the Austria government. And at any times, again, when tyranny occurs, where crimes are intentionally made, inhumane crimes, especially that causes torture and suffering. And when we look at the UN Convention that outlines what torture actually is, in this exact case, you will see the psychological torture and the stress, the inhumane actions, the evil, the wickedness, and the human experimentation, the psychological testing, and programs against consent. And it's very important to know that Nya did not consent with any of this, and neither did the children. So their consent, they were abused as well, where their consent was not listened to. So this is a classic case of torture in what is supposed to be an advanced democratic country, Austria, if you will. However, what we're finding, no, it is a very savage system of laws that is not designed with the principle of rights, of human rights, foundationed in it, and many other deficiencies. And we've spoken about this, and I won't go further into it right now. Anything you wish to add, sister, before we begin to read the lien and make comments as we go through it to explain and educate others?
Nothing yet. Just go on, please.
All right. Well, let's share the screen. I'll do that. And what do we have up here? One moment. Uh, this one. Make this a little bit bigger. And all right, official lien. So we have that
Yes,
at the top. And
perfect.
what I need to comment about what we were just speaking about, we have official notice lien on the top of that. And of course, for English, it would have been better official notice of lien. However, that does not diminish this important document and instrument of law. And what we were dealing with the Austria law, if you will, the psychological evaluation that was put into the last court proceedings, uh, it is called, and what it is recognized in law as a disposition. So it's a very important document, and it has to be consistent and precise in its documentation. There cannot be errors and flaws in it. So I need to point this out because there was also errors, technicalities, and flaws in it. It really did not stand the test to be a valid document to be referenced in court, and most certainly to use it to make a decision on for what to take Nya's children or anything else. It really could not be used in court had the legal system been lawful and this should have been recognized in the least. But the point, it's very beautiful that this occurred because where it occurred, where the judge was able to make a decision on a misleading disposition, and it showed that, let's say, perhaps technicalities meant nothing. So with this also, it provisions that uh, for Nya and also for any of you mothers, your wording doesn't have to be exact with it. So it opened a doorway as well that there is no argument for this document and how it's written and how it's presented, because they have already fouled their own premise of law in that respect, where a judge already used a faulty disposition to make a decision. It's all right if you don't understand what I said. Any of the academics that are watching would see it very clearly, and the advocates of true law and the true academics of law would understand it immediately, the reasoning and the rationale to justify what we just said. And you could say it is not it is not such a big thing. However, it is important in lawful structure and order where that was violated in the lease. So it is a deficiency that does need to be pointed out, which the methodical evaluator did as well. So what we have is the name of others involved. You see many names here, and also others that are not mentioned here yet. And we say yet because this is still unfolding, and there may be many more directly implicated as well. At this point, there has been, can I say this, Father? Yes, I can say this. There's been many claims um, sent out in the forms of invoices. And this invoice education, we had already covered this in the group, and I had put it out public, instructing moms and dads to begin to create invoices for their time because of the imposition by the unlawful acts that caused them to take so much of their valuable time to fight against the system. In this world today, time is valued, it has a price. It's why everyone gets wages and what have you. It's why also when you go and get a hotel room, if you will, you pay for the hotel room before you actually get the service. You don't go and sleep in it overnight and pay for it later. You pay for it before even receiving the actual service. But I threw that in there because I will reference this later on, not perhaps tonight, the significance of it, but in future rationale, if you will. However, getting back, your time is very important. Everyone's is. And if you are provoked into defending yourself, especially in this case, against a rigged system, and where you are a target, where unduly you are provoked with spending your time in a state of psychological stress and constantly defending yourself against something that is designed in the past not for you to win, then your time is very valuable. And it depends to what extent you go to So with this, the lawyers, what many have found is that the lawyers were also compromised by the system itself, and they would not morally stand up when they observed deficiencies because of their own fears, if you will, of the system and other reasons. And perhaps they're even part of this illegal criminal scheme and network, what it is. All right, so we go down here. So we have this lien is about lien on assets, monetary funds located at the Republic of Austria, and the assets in the monetary funds of the named liability insurers of the Austria civil and professional servants. And we mentioned last night with this lien, because when there is harm done, there has to be recompense. There has to be a compensatory action. And this is what liability insurance is for anyone. For in the old ways, if you're sued, actually, it would not be you sued, it would be your insurance company if you had the liability insurance that would actually pay it for you, to keep it simple. Uh, but so in this case, where many of the civil servants in the justice system and child care service and the professional psychological services as well, where they need to be insured or they cannot work, their insurance companies are also liable. Because it's incontestable evidence with this case, there is not a negotiation process with it or a mediation process to negotiate and discuss terms uh, with this, because also with the legal jurisdiction of the insurance companies of Austria, because it's also tied directly with the Republic of Austria, it loses its lawful jurisdiction and its stature to even defend itself, if you will. And again, it's because of the incontestable evidence. And when any has incontestable evidence, what this means, it cannot be contestable in court. It is absolute truth and beyond a reason, beyond reason of a doubt, it is a truth that cannot be contested. So typically, it means there is no trial and there is no need for a trial because the evidence speaks for itself that the party is guilty. So we skip all of that steps because of what I just explained. And now the full liability is upon the Republic of Austria and its insurance companies um, with this. So without me going further on that, anything you wish to add, yeah, before I go into more of
No,
this?
no, just
And I'll thank you. All right. So here it says, I, nya, Tai Tuat Tran, and please excuse me, or or you could say what it is. I'll say I, and what's your name?
yeah, Tig. Should I say it in German or in Vietnamese?
Whatever way you wish. You can pronounce it better than I.
Yeah, Tig Jung. It's the Vietnamese
Well,
name.
oh, that was quick. All right, good. The English attempt at pronouncing it was quite lengthy, and you did it very quick. Thank you. So Sister Nya, to keep things simple, placed two liens on Austria parties, as read above, one for 1 trillion euros, and the other lien on the insurance companies for 1.5 trillion euros, respectively, due to the reasons listed listed and referenced below. Anyone that when you write a lien, typically one of the best templates is to have your name, your particulars, your address, and your banking information right on the top of the lien. That's who it's from. And then next, what you put, and Sister Nya will be putting up the template for the lien as well in the group and for others, and I will too, simply how to construct your liens. Uh, so then you put two, who you are identifying and placing the liens upon, and you describe those, which is how to set up. And then you go into the reason. So you name the party's assets. And in this case, we just did the assets and funds of the Republic of Austria and also the insurance funds. So we have to name the particular assets, or in the past, it was property that a bank would put a lien on or someone else if they were owed money. So a lien application is this way where the crime has been committed beyond a reason of a doubt, as we have more than proven. So then you give the reason why the lien is placed. And another reason why these liens are placed is because there were numerous cease and desist orders sent out, giving the named parties the opportunity to do what was lawfully right, given the opportunity for remedy. However, they fully ignored it and continued with the criminal act, which justified and substantiating as a last recourse or resource to place the substantial liens rate upon them and bring it more into the public awareness, and to show the public that they are morally obligated and responsible for these actions, and also liable, if you will. So this is very, very serious, what we are doing with this liens, and everyone in a nation worldwide needs to realize how, if you are a citizen, that you are the actual power, and that the onus and moral obligation is upon you to stand up and stop these crimes. Because if it wasn't for you voting in these democratic countries, none of these representatives would be in there. So it's actually your responsibility. And in times of tyranny, all of the citizens, the people, have to stand up, and the people are the last resort at establishing law when you have a tyrannical government that is breaking their own laws and violating rights. So, anything to add there before I go into this next one?
No, you're doing great. I would
Thank
just
you.
add something if I have.
All right. Yeah. Interrupt me as you do, please,
Yeah.
divinely. All right. So I'll read the next. Whereas the Republic of Austria and all applicable levels of the Austria government has been informed of unlawful activity. Oh, I think I just probably just spoke about, excuse me, about this. Informed of unlawful activity in respect to Nya's case referenced below. So she also put her case number and particulars about her case below in the lien. So anyone also, it's important, if you have an open case number, to reference your case number as substantiating evidence supporting the reason and rationale for the lien as well. So you want your incontestable evidence included in it. It's what substantiates it and gives it supports its lawful jurisdiction and authority. So, and have, I'll get back, respect to Nya's case referenced below, and have not taken immediate action to remedy the situation. They also became complicit in this harmful and endangering crime that extends beyond an isolated case in Austria and enters into the wider spectrum of many injustices perpetrated upon many in Austria. And we say many in Austria because during the course of this investigation, at least Sister Nya was finding different organizations, different moms, and we interviewed a few moms on here with their case to give a representation of how it was more widespread, the systematic abuse. So the
Yeah,
Republic of Austria, yes.
excuse me, I want to add something. Not only this, during my researches, I also came across that a lot of parents also informed the ministries as well. So ministries, prosecutor office, also ombudswoman and or ombudsman, they are all informed. So just also as in my case.
And they didn't do anything. So the same as in your case. So
Yes,
many others. Yeah,
they are rejecting it or just ignoring it. So that's the outcome, or just
e-
don't respond to it.
excellent. Yeah, and this also again substantiates when a innocent mom, if you will, when all of the avenues of justice are exhausted, that there is no remediation, no solution. It puts you into this lawful stature of universal jurisdiction where Nya is at. And because there is a duty and a responsibility of care by the justice system. So when that is not there and when it's severed, it also means that you are above that a legal system because it's not law. And where you are within law, it means that this legal system becomes subservient to you to the degree that it cannot administer any justice upon you because itself is unlawful, null, and void. And it's like a criminal. A criminal cannot convict an honest person. That is preposterous. Yet, this is what you're seeing in this case to or to perhaps all the extent, but so, so it's not an isolated case in Austria and enters into the wider spectrum of many injustices perpetrated upon many in Austria. So we just said Sister Nya was finding many others, similar cases, but not only in Austria, worldwide. As we opened up with last night, we had mentioned Bandy Lee, a renowned psychologist in the US. She has also identified a distinct pattern, a business model that is associated with these criminal activities, and a distinct pattern and tactics that was also seen here in Ya's case and others that we had interviewed and did some of our investigation with. Um, and it's again because of this external investigation outside of Austria as well. It established that there is an actual business model, protocol, a nefarious protocol that is somewhat followed worldwide with the same tactics. And that is why intent is so conspicuous and obvious in this case, because there is an actual business model and a plan to alienate a mother to get the children. And it's about the money and other deeper, sick reasons we won't go into on this show, but what I will say in the future that I do know others that and if they are willing to come on, they'll give you more of the macabre, more of the sick things that does occur, at least in some cases, not all, but it is there and it is part of it. Um, all right, so the Republic of Austria has breached its contractual obligation to uphold the principles of law and rights in Ya's case and many others, rendering its authority subservient to the lawful contract of the individual and activating the contract of accountability and responsibility of the Republic of Austria. And when we mention the Republic of Austria, that includes all of the Austria citizens as well. So it's a shift of also responsibility and for the citizens of Austria to become more informed about this very important lawful proceeding. And as we mentioned last night, even though the International Court of Justice, the World Court, would be unable to any great degree do anything in this, we have informed them of this proceeding that the liens have been placed. Um, so, as a direct result of Nya's national contract being compromised, that is the duty of care and responsibility from the Republic of Austria. Sister Nya has placed on the state, um, have been placed Sister Nya has been placed in the state of lawful universal jurisdiction, as I just described again, because these are the mechanisms of law. And again, law has to be just and what have you. If not, it reverts to the basis of the individual's rights, which activates the individual's authority and moral obligation to say, no, this is not law, this is not acceptable, that is not right, at least. So then it says, as a result, and in times when a government or nation becomes complicit in inflicting harm upon its citizens or not rectifying a harmful situation, the above mentioned that are the lien is against are responsible for in doing so, no matter one or many, it becomes a moral obligation of the people to establish justice. When a legal system lacks the fundamental requirements of law, it becomes null and void. It has no lawful jurisdiction, nor stature, no capacity. It can't because it's acting criminally, which automatically activates the moral obligation and authority of the individual and or the authority of the people. It is actually the people's responsibility that a government or nation acts within law, as well as the responsibility to take appropriate action when a government or nation does not. And whereas the legal system of Austria has lost its legal capacity and authority, it cannot possibly lawfully support the venue for the lawful process and application of this lien, and subsequently the full lawful and moral jurisdiction then resides with Nya to do so. And I discussed this earlier. Because there is no lawful venue to do this, because in typical lawful legal systems, the venue is there that will administrate, authorize, administrate, and route the lien to the appropriate places. But in this case, It is different because it's the actual system, and there is no actual venue within the system because the when you have a unlawful system, it's designed to protect itself. And this is also why with these universal liens, you come from the outside because it's the criminal is the actual legal system itself. So you cannot find a venue within there to apply the higher law and to place the higher accountability. All right, next paragraph. It is with the substantiating reasoning above, and of course more, that Nya places this 1 trillion euro dollar lien upon the Republic of Austria and all of its functioning bureaucracy. This lien amount is to be created and secured in place by the Ministry of Finance of Austria until such a time at least that a lawful stature is maintained in Austria, which upholds all unalienable rights of the individual as well as a just lawful system. This trust fund secured by the lien is to immediately apply considerable compensation to the victims of injustices in Austria as they may come forward now and the near future. This lien is also being released to the public domain on the national and international levels to ensure accountability, responsibility, and that righteousness prevails. So this, what you're watching tonight, is part of that presentation to the public domain, and of course, everything that's been shared in the social medias worldwide as well to educate and inform the public. So this is part of that, what you're seeing. Um, with this, what I will say, because of the severity that this, I would like to say this is only an initial lien of $1 trillion placed by Nya to begin to create a trust fund. However, it's not limited to this $1 trillion as the realization by other moms come forward as well. A $1 trillion trust fund would only, let's say, fund um, one one mother and her child. So this is very serious and very severe, and it's uh, why this compensation, although it looks like a lot of money, 1 trillion euro dollars, as we go down below, you'll see that it's actually not, as explained why. So what I say, this is only the first lien of what could be many, not only upon the Republic of Austria, but other nations worldwide. We've seen in Germany the same sort of tactics. And of course, we mentioned the US with the Child Protection Services, CPS, and other countries. So what I would wish to say, this is only the beginning of something very huge to establish justice worldwide. Enough is enough. So we go to the next sentence. Anything to add before I move on, Sister Nya?
No.
All right, great. So the next paragraph. Nya says, my children were unlawfully taken by the child services of Austria, are to be returned to my immediate care immediately, unharmed and in good health and being. So it's written right here in the lien. Again, the instructions of what to do. The lien was placed last Friday. As of yet, there is no compliance with this serious lien. A secondary lien of 1.5 trillion euro dollars is also placed by NYA upon the respective insurers' funds of the health, civil, and professional servants of Austria combined, as I discussed above. This lien amount is due immediately, whereas psychological suffering and unconsented medical and psychological tests were perpetrated upon Ya and her children that can have an immeasurable, indefinite, long-term effect upon the well-being of Ya and her children that could limit their futures in all respects. Now, with anyone with this is not reason. It is not difficult to accept, meaning that trauma in a childhood, as ones know, has been documented to affect one their entire life. And psychologically, if you look at a serial killer, if you will, for the most part, they were traumatized as a child, and you saw the harm that that created many years later, where it was unhealed. And this is just one example of why we say that the already incurred psychological stress is immeasurable. And there is no way to know how long that it would take for any mom and children put into the psychological tests and torture, how long it would take for them to retain a normal composure, if you will, and to be able to function normally within a society. And what we touched on last night, one report, I believe, that come out of Austria, is that the children that are taken by the Child Crisis Center, there was a relative figure of 82% after they come out become delinquents, or let's say criminal to some extent. So it shows you that the crisis center, if we use that statistic as an example, it indicates that the crisis center is causing more harm than good in the least.
So I want to add, so the children crisis intervention center, in this case, is a temporary place where they were put, and also clinical and psychological tests done,
A
and
lab, a
yeah,
lab for experimentation.
yeah, and the statistic that you are referring is based also on the next stage, meaning like when they get into children homes. So when the children are placed into children homes, that causes a lot of stress, but also harm, because there's also abusing coming up in that area. But also they are doing psychiatric treatments as well. So yes, most of the children that are coming out of the children home are delinquents or have some mental illness as well, or other things. Or also, I heard a lot of cases where children just commit suicide in children's home.
Yeah, they push them right to the limit.
Yes.
And, where it begins is in the child crisis center when they begin to psychologically condition and prepare the child for a child's home or what have you. So, but again, it all begins in that moment when the one's rights and consent is denied and the abuse of authority takes place that leads to the clinical, what they call clinical testing, but the psychological intrusion upon the individual in the attempts of a conformity and a reprogramming of the consciousness. And in your case, to the extent of not allowing the mother to say anything bad about the father, regardless if it's truth. And this is a very endangering psychological um, process as well. What they do, the children need to know the truth. And if that is kept from them as well, it puts them in a much more endangered state and also in an endangered environment. And they are the cause of it.
Yes, it's not only, something bad, it's, as you said, it's the truth. So you're not allowed to share the whole truth why everything has happened with the children. So to keep that illusion.
Close some doors so the flies don't go inside.
Yes, to keep the illusion up and running about the other parent, which has instructed and created the whole situation. So, yes, but also what I have heard, there are also some special kind of mother-child places where they put mother and children or mother and pregnant woman into that place. But also, again, they got indoctrinated and monitored the whole time and observed, which causes a lot of stress onto the mother and the child itself in those homes as well. So this is an ongoing thing with all the homes they have created because the child welfare, for example, and other people have access to those people all the time, so you don't have any privacy.
Exactly. Yeah. So shall I continue? Yeah. All right. So then we say, whereas the value of one man is recognized in this current world of almost 500 billion euro, and we took Elon Musk as an example, as a net worth. So whereas the value of one man is recognized in this current world of almost 500 billion euro at this time, that is a half a trillion euro. And with projected increasing worth in the future over time, so let's say with Nya's children, I believe, let's say Aurora, she is 8 years old. So let's say the time she gets 38, and if this trauma has left such an imprint on her in a normal world, uh, 30 years from now, uh, if this world continued, it would not be unreasonable for there to be many trillionaires worldwide. So we need to put in the projected increasing worth, which we have. And a current threshold of individual worth is established at a possible 500 billion euro, meaning that the distinct possibility of obtaining this worth is reasonable now by anyone. And let's take especially a young child, and again, let's take Aurora at age 8. If her life was not intervened with in such this way to conform her and to put her into an education that robs her identity and robs her ingenuity, many children are born today geniuses, like 5-year-olds playing the piano, Einstein mathematicians, and so this is documented and it's very real worldwide, meaning that the extent of the harm upon the children is immeasurable, and to allow at least for a fair value, then we need to look at the 500 billion euro, which is a half a trillion dollars. And with this, where in this case it's Nya and her two children. based at 500 billion each, that comes to 1.5 trillion dollars. Um, and yes, for Nya as well. What I need to say, uh, not just because Nya is a friend, a good friend at this time. My object evaluation is that her consciousness is very high, her intellect very high, her intelligence, but also what I need to say, um, her parapsychological gifts, which resides on a different level than it's above a normal human being at able to read energy and being an empath, which is very real. So, having said this, during the course of the last few months, what it has done was preoccupied Nya totally with fighting to get the children back, which took her away from her other developing, advancing work as well. And so ones need to realize that every time something is intervened with or interfered with in the moment, that it affects the next day, it affects the future. And this is very real, and experts will tell you this. So we don't need to explain that reasoning. However, it had to be put in here to substantiate the value and the worth of this actual lien and to take it to the real possible extents where it can go. And this is reasonable and it's rational as well. And it's founded in when you have reason and rationale, this is more of a foundation for law because it's also truth. We already have the living example of one man worth 500 billion. And, who is to say that in the next day that Nya could create a very genius, let's say, cure for cancer or what have you, which is worth, so much, or that she develops another very important civilization changing invention. These things are very real and they happen every day. Look at your innovative technology, how quickly it has advanced. Anyone look at your TV? How did that come to be? Who thought that you could watch someone on a TV screen? If you look at that for a moment, it defies the normal individual's logic how that is done. Yet someone figured out how to do it, it is real and it is done. So there is not to be any underestimation of the capacity of any individual's intellect and, of course, their value not only to themselves but to society and society worldwide. Um, so where was that here? I'll reread this one. Whereas the value of one man is recognized in this current world of almost 500 billion euro at this time, and with projected increasing worth in the future, a current threshold of individual worth is established at a possible 500 billion euro, meaning that the distinct possibility of obtaining this worth is reasonable now by anyone in the world. In my words, because it already exists, is the proof, unless an individual may undergo a traumatic life altering situation, such as psychological torture. And this is a very important part because when you enter that torture has already occurred, how much did it affect the future of that one? Quite possibly, it affected the future of Nya and each one of her children at least 500 billion euro, but perhaps more. What do you wish to say, Nya?
Oh, I want to add, it has already affected me the moment when the child welfare and the court intervened, and not only for all the parents, because the whole process itself, from the beginning until now, is torture and is affecting your life and your lifestyle and everything. So all parents who are going through this can confirm it.
Absolutely. When they first took the children that day in the police station in Vienna, the children were crying as well as you, reaching out for you. And, they took the children away with police that were, let's say, had weapons on their side. And even though you stood there and did not give your consent, they did not listen to it, and they kidnapped the children, and that's what this is kidnapping, because there was no immediate danger. They had fabricated it all, made it up. It was an actual criminal act to unlawfully take the children, and anyone can imagine the stress that that creates, even just in that one moment, the traumatic situation.
Yes. Yes, I didn't cry when when the children were taken. I cried a lot afterwards, because I had to I had to
Keep
be in,
strong for the
yes,
children then. All
yes,
right. Yeah.
yes. So everything was also recorded with it, and also, at that point, being circled by everyone, you cannot resist, because it's about the welfare of the children as well. And also, yes, they didn't give me any reason for the endangerment. They could see everything was fine with them as well. But still, I'm not quite sure because I didn't get any reports from them, right? I just know the first time when I talked to the children after the weekend when they were taken, the first 2 days. So they were taken on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I couldn't speak with them. On Monday, they allowed me to speak with them. They sounded like they were, how to say that? Like somehow, like put on a medicaments or something. Not really clear. Also, when they were speaking, and I was like, that's
Not
weird.
fully coherent and
Yes,
cognitive, like they were
yes,
drugged. It was not your same children
yes, yes. And I
like
said,
that.
you are sounding so, that's not you. And the moment when I noticed this, it switched on the next day. So this is an ongoing thing. Every time when I noticed something while speaking with the children and they knew that I knew, they changed it. So I'm just saying, and until now, I didn't get any access to it. So they
Well,
just
this
all
is the
time.
thing. Yeah, it's quite possible. It is quite possible the children were administered drugs, if not directly put in their food as well, to calm the children down. But again, this is a huge violation. And when we look at another violation, is that when the children was taken from you, they were given directly to the father to drive them to the crisis center. But at that time, the father had no custody, yet they released the children directly there into the father's custody to drive them there when it had not even been decided in court that he could be it.
Yeah.
Um,
The thing is, he had shared custody at that point, but the thing is that everything was orchestrated beforehand,
but
meaning
he
like
didn't have shared custody,
he had,
because when you go to May 23rd of that last court, you did not consent to that. So any custody that he had was invalid.
That 2023 was the court meeting about the visiting times itself and not the custody itself.
All right, and when was the custody?
The thing is, with the custody, because of my trust and will, for everything, after I have given birth, to have equal rights, I consented to the shared custody with him back then when the children were born. So, and I never, went to battle or something. But the thing is, there were some cases in the past where he tried to get custody and almost lost it. But the thing is, I just took it back, because yeah, at that point, nothing.
Well,
Um,
however, yes, but custody consists of um, sitting times. And it was the sitting times that you did not agree with. So technically and lawfully, because it did not have your full consent, there could not be a sitting time applied to custody either. But we don't need to go deeper into that, but you can add whatever you wish. But the point I am making is that there was not enough rationalization for the child services to, at that point, directly give them to the father, if you will. And that could be argued out very well in your favor, but we don't need to do that.
Yes, it just shows that they are biased, because not that's not the normal way, to take away children and put them into the crisis intervention center, because as I have figured out in later, that he had fully agreed to the whole process, so it was fully planned, in advance.
Yes, it was all premeditated and planned. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, yeah. I could say more things, but I'm not. I'll continue on right now with it. So the next line is both children and Nya are of higher conscious intellect and mental capacity beyond the norm. And this is at least substantiated in the psychological evaluator herself with the reports from teachers of the children. But whereas there's been a huge attack on Sister Nya's character and defamation as well. Part of that reasoning is because of Nya's higher consciousness and actions at knowing what is right and what is wrong. She became a threat to the system. So they began to attack her character and her personality at attempts to suppress her. So then it says, however, the damage from the persistent and relentless unlawful practices by the accused and their continued engaged insidious deeds of endangering the children leads the harm yet incalculable. So what this actually means, the longer the children are gone, this these liens may not suffice the damages. They may also need to be increased by Nya herself. Uh, the next sentence, I got a, I got a huge lightning come, and then we got some thunder. So we're bringing in divine law here, and I got some rain coming. The cleansing. Again, symbolic, like last night when the Christ beetle and the locust come. But now I'll read a little bit more. Uh, the liability and accountability resides with the insurers mentioned above of the unlawful actions committed by their respective insured and are subsequently responsible for the compensatory act. Many mentioned departments and individuals were given prior notice of acting in unlawful capacity and sent cease and desist orders with zero compliance in making immediate remedy. Upon further unlawful activity, the mentioned were the mentioned then were requested their civil and professional insurance details, of which none also uh, did not comply. Where there was no attempt by the mentioned to reconcile or negotiate, this establishes unlawful intent as well. So they were all or most all were asked for their insurance details. And let's say with anyone, uh, any professional or anyone involved, when that is asked for, that is a sign of at least an impending lawsuit or being sued. And with this, it is the obligation of the individual then to notify their insurance company. So if their insurance company were not notified by the individual that had received a request for their insurance details, if that individual did not notify their liability insurance, then it was also a breach of contract, if you will, between the insurer and the insuree. Now, with this, what it can do, because there were individual invoices sent, what this can do then is to turn into actual liens against 16, at least, that were named and sent invoices as well. But not only this, where the individual did not provide their insurance details, what this also shows is that they are acting unlawful with the insurance that breached their contract, which means that the insurance companies can no longer insure them. And if they do, if the insurance company insures these, then the insurance companies become criminal themselves for supporting and condoning crime. So again, this is a very serious situation by the individuals that are involved, and I do suspect perhaps one of them at least is watching this tonight to give the information to the other individuals. And so also this cannot be hidden. It cannot be thrown away. It has to be addressed. It's very serious. So there's no sweeping these liens under the rug, if you will, because they are lawful. So they go to the next. I'll go to the next paragraph. We're almost done, everyone, going through. The, yeah, yay. Okay, the next, all right, I retract okay, I replace it with all right. Let's go to the next paragraph. The next paragraph. Further, a combination of departments and individuals insured by the said insurance companies and institutions were sent, six in brackets, 16 were sent, and at least 14 received these invoices, accumulative invoices of substantial monetary amounts, of which at this time are outstanding and increasing in amounts daily. Within the invoices, it is at a interest rate, I believe, of 16%, uh, 16 to 20%, but compounded daily until paid. But also what is written in the lien, that it reaches such a point, if it's not paid immediately, then it's considered as theft, which then puts it into the criminal area, because it would simply be a pillage or a theft of Nya's time because she was provoked into this circumstance. And again, her time has monetary value, and this is very lawful and reasonable. Um, these invoices, so I'm going to continue to read. These invoices were originally sent to the main individuals to compensate Nya for her valuable time they had caused her to spend in fighting this injustice. Because remember, again, everyone, we have proven this injustice is intentional. And that's important to know. So this is just not some fancy, fabricated, fly by night rebuttal. This is actually a lawful, serious instrument, and tying the hands, handcuffing the ones, if you will, that are responsible for the serious crime and other crimes. Um, so there, I'm going to continue to read. There is reasonable anticipation that these invoices may not be able to be paid by all, whereas the monetary value is high and increasing daily, and that the named insurers in this lien may also be liable for these invoice amounts, whereas to my knowledge, these individuals and departments are still liability insured by the said insurers. And what that means, it apparently you have not been informed, Ya, or anyone else, that the judge has been suspended, the psychological evaluator has been suspended, that the prosecutor's office has been suspended. So there is no public notification nor personal notification that any of these named civil servants and departments, they have not, as of yet, uh, stopped acting as a civil servant. So, what this means, if they are still insured, and even up to this point, not only is the insurance liability insurance companies responsible for the $1.5 trillion lien, they may also become responsible for these invoices, which amount to over, when the time they were invoiced was over $1 million. However, that's been a length of time, so it's quite possible that these invoices are now worth what you would call a promissory note of over $2 million. So this is also another substantial lien effect, if you will, that again, uh, there has to be the accountability and the responsibility for recompense. And at this time, it's not for us to decide how or who will pay. We have put the payment notice, the lien notices, the invoice notices out. So there is a contract of obligation for those ones to pay it, because they initially opened the contract of Nya's time by engaging her into non-consensual action. So there is that contract obligation that they are responsible for her time as well. And simply with contract law, the entire world operates on contract law. And what I will say simply, when you go to talk to your neighbor next door, there is a contract involved, meaning that if you speak to them, they have the choice of contract to respond or not. But when they speak to you back and forth with that conversation, a conversation is an actual contract. Now, also to take this further, what courts are realizing worldwide that not only is a contract a written contract, that also a verbal contract is recognized in agreements and in courts worldwide as well. So it's important to know the basis and the foundation of contract law as well, and how it plays a role in every part of your life, and it cannot be avoided here on earth. What I will say, the next thing, so the $1.5 trillion lien to the insurers is to be set up immediately in Ya's name and accessible immediately by Ya. So it was sent Friday, this information, and to our knowledge, it's Tuesday, I think. You have not been notified of anything, and in your bank account, nothing has come. But with
Oh,
this, what
only one thing. I think again, when I sent out everything, only the place of corruption responded again, telling me it was forwarded to the prosecutor office. So what we are doing is openly always um, directing those
transparent
information, yeah, to all the places as well,
and
so they are all
informing.
informed.
Mhm.
Also, what we have
Yeah,
submit, because this lien was also submitted to the court, not from the way others are thinking that we want them, to consent to it. It's just also, to inform them what we are doing. So
exactly. Yes. Yeah, it's to inform them the same way the World Court has been informed as well. And through the course of this, inadvertently, others are being also informed and educated on this very important, timely, lawful instrument. Uh, so then the next sentence says, in the sake of transparency and a timely disclosure, and timely disclosure is important in law as well. You know, in a lot of laws, legal systems, there is the tactics of stretching out long cases, if you will, to stagnate and prolong justice. And in Canada, you would see that a lot. And this is not a foundation of law. Things need to be dealt with in a timely manner to be just. So when you see cases being put off or what have you, it is a stagnation tactic it can be also said to disrupt justice um, to create more of an individual targeted impact at stress and and manipulation of an individual as well. And what many of you will find that in those sort of cases, it would be when you were attempting to stand up against the system that one of the first things they do is the stall tactics. Then they financially will burden the individual, not only conspicuously, inconspicuously as well, in attempts to dissuade one from looking for justice. So their tactics is to prolong um, the course of attempting to get justice, but also to financially burden as well, and to also, in Ya's case here, to defame the identity, the character of the individual, to make them look like uh, uh, to make it look like they are mentally sick to the public as well. Then the system is able to control them more in the past. So these are all typical tactics of an unjust um, criminal legal system, if you will. And I laugh. Go ahead, sister. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just want to add, it's their tactics to twist it around and put the blame onto others, because through my actions, I mean, the court decision itself was also prolonged and split it, into two parts and a lot of time in between. But they also trick you into believing that you would get a good outcome, to put up your hope and then break it again.
False hope.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that's a psychological torture as well, so they are playing with you. And also by me standing up and submitting a lot of evidence, and also pointing out the laws that they have broken, and also the human rights that they are violating. So in the end, they just switched it and saying, that I'm blaming everyone and also the system, instead of taking responsibility, just to yes, which is which we know, because I had a lot of evidence and pointing out all the things that they have broken, also with witnesses and so on. So just to see their tactics, how they are working to turn the blame onto you, or to projecting what they are doing onto you. So
Exactly. And this is what they do. So you're over here with the truth. Here's Nya with the truth, and their tactics is to distract the public and look over here what we got. She's crazy and what have you, and that is part of the distraction as well. Yes, simply.
yes, yes, you can see it, that a lot of things are not coming up into the protocol. So it's tampering with evidence,
Yeah,
just to
and
let
the
it look.
omission of
Yeah,
of important facts. Yeah,
yes.
to yeah, and the methodical evaluator, he picked that out so quickly and efficiently. It was just so obvious and conspicuous as well. And I still don't know him, but he must have been laughing and shaking his head the whole time he was doing that evaluation. How blatantly unlawful it was, and how that even went into a court. It's absolutely ridiculous. So these are just my thoughts. He must have been like shaking his head and jaw dropping in awe at how how ridiculous that this was unlawful and illegal.
That I don't know, because I was not there, but I had a small discussion with him, because he's in this area for a very long time. I don't go into detail because it's private. But the only
Mhm.
thing, because of my observations from the psychological evaluator inside of the court, and seeing some kind of specific behaviors, which shows that there's not in my opinion, a stabilized mm, there's not a mental stabilized state, right? And the thing is, I pointed that out, and telling him, or asking him, or just telling him that in my opinion that is not the correct way to let those psychological evaluator being in court deciding over life. They have to be mental healthy and stable. And also, that I think, because I read his evaluation, that I also heard in the past that they're a very good evaluator, but they were not accepted by court, because they don't have sworn the oath, which is some kind of, again, suspicious, right? And I said to him, or I didn't said to him, but he confirmed that they are may other psychological evaluator, which has some kind of mental sickness, you know, meaning like
So that is, if you will, then that is an initiation requirement that before one gets admitted into having a place as a psychological evaluator in Austria, they have to be at least show the first signs of, if you will, psychopathic behavior. And I'll say it because that entire psychological evaluation that was used in court is a psychopathic presentation, and also the judge psychopathic for agreeing and using it as well.
Yes, or maybe also, something like in an interval, maybe, after a few years just to recheck, and do another tests, because as you can see, the longer you are in this area, it could also having a strong effect.
Yeah, yeah. Also, when we were bringing this case up, it's probably a psychological experiment on the public, as well, to seeing if they'll believe and allow these psychopaths to remain in in the office. But I kind of put that might not have made sense what I was the point I was attempting to make, but just to keep it simple, any Austrian citizens that's reading this, you need to stand up, and any that have watched the psychological evaluation interview, and we also put the psychological evaluation out publicly. Any of you citizens of Austria need to see how psychopathic it is. But I'll continue. Um, so I was here. In the sake of transparency and a timely disclosure, these liens will also be released for international public viewing and consideration, as we have already did and continue that process, as was and is. Most of the evidence and material of this case and saga for justice is put out publicly. There are just a couple things yet we didn't put out fully publicly, because one of the reasons it involves the personal identities of, let's say, at least one or more that assisted in this case. So, to respect their anonymous stature, at least for now, there is some things that are not fully disclosed yet. And but to my knowledge, I believe we put most everything out anyhow, but there may be a couple things we didn't yet. Um, all right, so now we're here. Nya adds a copy of the written contract between Aurora, her daughter, and Nya, as well as state that her son Akua was in the process of signing his written contract before being interrupted by a supervisor in a visitor room at IPS Impulse, the Child Welfare Service private sector. Then Nya says her daughter Aurora and her son Akua had already given their verbal consent prior to signing the contract. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit on what occurred there? We are we have added the written contracts of Aurora and the son Akua, and what it reads. So the children, with their consent and their own will and testament, have also signed these contracts. But we should read the content of the contract. Sister Ria, can you oblige us with reading what that actual contract says first, and then we'll get into what occurred with the supervisor, how she obstructed the contractual rights and justice.
Yeah, just give me a second. I have to open it to exactly tell you. what it's inside.
Yeah, I don't think I have it here. Yeah, this is it. We sent it, she has sent it with the original copy, everyone. And we have put that out though publicly too, so anyone can view it. And we will make a better presentation of these important documents and contracts like this one in the future as well. But also, we had previously, perhaps a month or two ago, encouraged the parents to begin getting these written contracts with their own children that were held. And at the time, we mentioned, without giving all the details, the importance of them in the future and how they would come more into play at substantiating their own cases with other moms, if you will. I'm going to
Yes. I,
be ready to share, um, yeah, the actual contract.
yes, it was such a simple contract. So, for example, for my daughter, I and then her name, consent, that I want to stay with that parent whom I choose. So I'm just translating it at once, and where I want to live my everyday life. I think that is I just translated it because it's in German. So I do not consent that someone is taking me away from home. And I do not want to stay in the crisis intervention center and in Spital. And I don't want to be kept there.
Yeah. So, but Aura, isn't it written that Aurora wanted to be with you, that she chose to be with you, and Akua with the mother?
Yes, with the parent she chose. So the thing is, I have signed it there. The thing is, why did we brought it up? Because during the whole time since they were taken, they always repeated it every time that they want to go back. They want to stay with me. I have a lot of recordings that is also proving it. I have witnesses with me who can prove this as well. So we just have written it down and signed by her. So I think we have also created a template. That's the reason why we said that the parent whom I chose. So yes, and in the thing is, it never came up, so the children were never hurt. So I saw the children since they were taken on the 21st of March 2 times for 1 hour. And on the second time, when I saw them, the whole situation was somehow very, there was a lot of pressure there. So I had my witness there, and there was two supervisors there in a small room with my children. And I asked them, I asked them if they want to stay with me. And I asked just simple question. I asked them, and they said yes. And I said, do you want to stay with me at home? And they said yes. And I said, you don't want to stay in the crisis intervention center? And they said also yes, right?
Yeah. So this
And
was the verbal part of the
yes,
contract that
and
they
also
said
don't
they
want to,
wanted to go with you.
yes, and
Yeah.
also don't want
And
to
you
take
have a
away
witness.
from at home. Yes,
Yeah, and you also had a witness
yes,
that accompanied you that day, and you also have a recording, I believe, too, do you not?
yes. I have recording
Yeah.
as well,
So,
but
so yeah, so this is the children's choice, they said. So you have it recorded, you have a witness, and you also have a written contract that that this is what they chose was to be with you. Now, were you also have it substantiated by another witness, by a recording, and a written contract. And again, a contract is a lawful instrument. that needs to be recognized, even if it's written between a child and a child's mother. It is a contract, it is a lawful contract. So, what occurred?
Yes, what happened was that I was threatened by the supervisor telling me that I have to hand her over that contract or that paper. And I said, no, that's mine. You cannot take that from me. So what all, I'm sorry because I don't have it so deeply in my consciousness, so I have to recall it. What happened before was after I asked the children those sentence, I asked them if it is okay for them, to sign it for I have it written, on a paper, and I put it down, and I said to Aurora, if she could sign it, it's everything that we just discussed. And then I think the supervisor started to step up or something, and I said to her, everything is fine, you can sign it, just sign it. And then I asked Akua to sign it. And when Akua wanted to get there, she stood up and she looked at him in a threatened way. So,
Intimidating look.
yes, and intimidating. What happened? He got in fear. He collapsed, like he fall down onto the
Wow.
floor. He
Wow.
was in fear. And
Uh, this is very significant. Finish telling the story, and I've got to come back to what you just said, but
yes,
finish,
the
please.
thing is, I've never seen my son in that state. Never. So
Extreme fear.
yes, it was. I saw the effects of the time that he was taken away, because he's a very strong child, but he just collapsed. And um, I
What
just,
this, well, what
yes,
this indicates is that he had reason prior to be afraid of the supervisor. Uh, because he would not have been this afraid just by an intimidating look. So, what I would say is prior that he experienced being perhaps abused by the supervisor in some very strict way to make him have so much fear, whatever she did prior to Akua, it must have been very extreme and traumatic for him to crumble onto the floor and I believe, as you're saying, curl up in a ball just from her. This
yes,
this is pretty extreme.
yes. The thing is, what I also experienced is that they often separated the children from each other, and they had a very strong bond each other. So Aurora was taking, to go somewhere, and Akua was alone and crying. And also, they said that he's not able to regulate himself, which he was not when he was with me, you know. So there were a lot of things happening, and the thing is, normally, I was always there, but he also, he was, you totally see when he collapses, he was totally alone. So he started, to protect himself, right? And I got to him and I asked him if everything is all right, or if he has fear. And he just not, he didn't speak. He just looked at the floor all the time. So I asked him if I can hold him, So what I did, I was holding him. I put it on my legs.
This what you're just beginning to share here, this is indicative of let's say concentration camps and human experiences, what they would do with the children. So this is touching on a very prevalent tactic of abuse, what would occur in uh, uh, abusive child homes and where they psychologically experimented on the children to get them to listen. So, with this, they instilled prior immense fear, or he would not have acted that way in the moment because you were there.
Yes, the
So,
thing the thing
yeah,
is, he was some kind of a shock state. And also, I looked at her and I said, "Did you intimidate him?" And then she looked at me and she said, "It's your fault. It's your fault because you brought that up." And I said, "Everything was fine until you intimidated him, right?" So he was in shock. I put him on, I just hugged him. I just talked calmly with him. I was patting his back, and I just talked calmly with him if everything is all right. Is he in fear? Does she, is he afraid of her? Is she somehow, what did I say? Said,
Well, absolutely too. When we look at this, he would, if it was you that caused the fear, he would not allow you to comfort him. And again, this is obvious that the supervisor did this, and it must have been so extreme or severe, whatever the supervisor did to him, to instill in him so much fear, that
on.
memory imprint. It had to be extreme for him to immediately, once she come close or intervened, for him to curl up in a ball, and I believe he was perhaps even shaking as well.
So he didn't exactly curd in a ball, but his body was somehow, like in that state, right? So the thing is, he hold something like a toy in his hand, and he just was nervously, looking at the toy, and like when a child is nervous and don't know what to do, right? So they just hold on to something and doing such thing, because never no one was there just to calm him and soothe him, during the time he was separated. So when I did, and I talked with him in a calm, soft voice, the supervisor again yelled at me, and she said, "I don't want to disturb your intimate time together, but I don't hear you, you know." And then I was like, well, and then I was in a louder voice. I said, I asked him, if he is afraid? And he said, yes. And I asked him if he is afraid about you. And he said, yes. And something else. I asked him something else, but I don't remember. But the thing is, I also felt the huge negative energy, because I couldn't see it clearly because she stepped in. So I was talking, I was looking at him, and I just moved then on, to I think to a chair or something. I don't recall, the whole sequences because I've written it down, but I remember she coming to our place and continuing with intimidating, like, what are you speaking? What are you doing? You have to speak loud, right? And then I moved onto the chair, and I was just, telling him everything is all right. Just let go. Mommy is here, and I know I'm no matter what is happening, I'm always with you. So what happened is, after a while, he could relax. His whole vessel could relax. He let the toy fall onto the ground, and I could hug him, and he hugged me. And after a while, you could see how long they were in a survival mode. And then when he relaxed and he was back, he looked at me and he was like, "Mommy, I'm all right. We can continue with playing." But honestly, it literally, something like that is breaking my heart, because you can see how he's moving very
It was,
quickly to a
yeah,
survival mode because he has to.
it's evidence of psychological torture, and we'll get to what is outlined by the UN Convention, uh, how they describe psychological torture. It's also included in this lien. But also, they were psychologically programming the children as well. And this is why they wanted to hear everything that Nya said, because they were psychologically programming the children with a set of psychological protocols. And if and because they were doing this, it shows that they were doing it because they were very concerned with whatever Nya would said, and they didn't want whatever Nya might said that would be adverse to the psychological program. That's why they wanted to hear every word and control it, because if she said something, it could disrupt their psychological experiment and programming and conditioning of the child, what they were doing. And it was obvious that they had pre intimidated the child to get the child to format to the psychological program. That's why when the supervisor did this, that Akua became very afraid, because it was also the abuse, which is part of the psychological torture, intimidation, and programming as well.
Yes, what I do want to add, everyone who knows about trauma and how to overcome and to heal trauma, it is the most important thing to go through the emotions, to release it to the body and not getting distracted. So what they are doing with the children is they traumatize the children, then they start to distract them with like going somewhere, eating ice, playing, just having a good time, not going into anything negative, which suppresses the trauma and creates much more harm, later on when they are grown up,
Yeah,
right?
this is typical in psychological programming to give, to enter the reward, if you will, to get the children to obey. So, yes, they use the reward instrument in the psychological programming as well. You know, if you be a good child, you get a reward. If you listen to everything I say, you get a reward. If you don't listen, I would become very angry. So it's part of their abuse and psychological programming, and it's part of the tactics that is used into it in the least, without getting further in that. Do you have anything else to add, or should I just proceed? We're getting down here. Go forward.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Uh, so what Sister Nya has added, from liability to compensation for damages, has listed a, I believe this is within the legal system of Austria, the reference that everyone is entitled to demand compensation from the person who caused them damage through their fault. The damage may have been caused by a breach of contractual obligation or without any connection to a contract. This is very excellent. So this is, but Sister Nya, can you just confirm, is this written, is this an Austria law?
Yes.
Ah, thank you. So what everyone is seeing here, this is a further within the Austria legal system, a substantiation and justification also for this lien. And as I just read it, and it says everyone is entitled to demand compensation. So this lien is a demand for that from the person who caused them damage through their fault. In this case, there are so many that are involved, and all of them that are named in this lien, and even more as we go forward, will be revealed. The damage may have been caused by a breach of a contractual obligation. A contractual obligation is by the government of Austria with all of its citizens to uphold their their rights, and and to uphold the law and the fundamentals of law. And as you've seen, no, that has not occurred here. It was actually the opposite. And then it says, or without any connection to a contract. So caused by a breach, excuse me, of a contractual obligation, or without any connection to a contract. even someone who intentionally causes damage in a manner contrary to public policy is liable for it. So in this case, we see it is intentional and it is contrary to the public policy because what occurs with this case, it strips the public of any integrity for the legal system, whereas all of the legal level levels of the Ministry of Justice right up have been notified of this. However, they did not stop this unlawful activity. So this is also why they are implicated and complicit in this huge crime and are liable. And this is also part of the reasoning why the insurance companies are liable. Then it says, but if this was done in the exercise of a right, only if the exercise of the right was clearly intended to harm the other party. Well, I won't attempt to explain that. We've got um, there was no right to harm another party. So, however that is worded is for I just a little bit. Now, here we come to it. So, now this is a quote just taken from, I believe, the internet. We couldn't uh, find a uh, uh, find the source for it. It was previously taken, or perhaps it was written by I. But nevertheless, I'll read this off because it is very important, and especially with this case. Psychological torture involves methods aimed at obliterating the personality of the victim or diminishing their physical or mental capacities. Even if they do not cause physical pain or mental anguish. This form of torture is particularly insidious as it targets the psychological well being of the individual, aiming to break their spirit and will. So, with what Nya just shared about Kua and the intimidation by the supervisor, this describes perfectly what was occurring, where they tried to rob the individual of their identity and replace it with a conformed identity that they choose. And this is part of their psychological programming. However, in Ya's case, physiological torture has occurred with her and both children. And here what we have is the United Nations Convention Against Torture, Article 16, and psychological torture. And this next line, the convention gave for the first time in history a definition of psychological torture. And here it is. And this is Article 16. Anyone can go into the convention and read this. Torture is any act by which severe pain or suffering, whether physical or mental, is intentionally inflicted on a person for such purposes as obtaining him obtaining from him or a third person information or a confession, punishing him for an act he or a third person has committed or is suspected of having committed, or or intimidating or coercing him or a third person, or for any reason based on discrimination of any kind, when such pain or suffering is inflicted by or at the instigation of or with the consent or acquiescence of a public official or other person acting in official capacity. Subordinates who commit acts of torture cannot abstain themselves from legal responsibility on the grounds that they were just following orders from their superiors. So this is also part of the implication of the employees, for example, at the child welfare or the Child Crisis Center that also allow these sort of psychological experiments on children and what they put under the guise of clinical testing to continue that is endangering and harming children. The prohibition on torture applies to anywhere under a party's effective jurisdiction, inside or outside of its borders, whether on board its ships or aircraft or in its military occupations, military bases, peacekeeping operations, healthcare industries, schools, daycare centers, detention centers, embassies, or any other of its areas, and protects all people under its effective control, regardless of nationality or how the control is exercised. Crimes against humanity, of which include psychological torture and human experimentation without consent. And this is important. The consent was never given by Nya or the children as well with this human experimentation that also involves psychological torture inside the crisis center, but also outside and targeted at Sister Nya and her children's life. Methods of obliterating the personality and robbing the identity. These are crimes against humanity. And these are psychological torture and human experimentations. And again, the methods of obliterating the personality, which, we give an example with the Kua, where you saw that intimidation and robbing the identity as an example, the intimidation. So Akua, Akua's identity was, yes, mom, I'm going to sign the contract. That is his identity. But then the supervisor jumped in and frightened him, if you will, as part of robbing his freedom of choice, of self-determination, and intimidating him, if you will, in the least, without me explaining that much further. And here is Sister Nya's case number where everything was sent, and in the name of God, Nya put this on, and I as well put it on important documents because we are acting fully not only in lawful capacity and divine moral capacity. And when we put in the name of God, this is our divine, genuine moral identity. And with these things, God would not allow these psychological tortures and sufferings, if you will. So I and Sister Nya, being emissaries of God, if you will, and light, know the things what has been done in Austria, these serious crimes are not acceptable. And we know, as well as all of you, God would not accept this evil. It is even said in your your Bibles, but everyone knows it inherently that it's wrong to do these things. It's wrong to be evil. If you don't know that, you are not moral and you are not qualified or equipped to be in a place in a legal system at making any decisions. Because if you don't have morality, you are criminal. And this is what we're actual criminals in all levels of the Austrian government as well. And yes, I say that, you could quote me because this is what our evidence is showing here every step of the way. And also Sister Nya, and also on behalf of her children as well, because they are named in the lien as the beneficiaries as well, and they must be. And it is the mother's duty of care to act on behalf of the children, which she is also doing. And that contract of duty of care between a mother and her children is one of the most important, valuable contracts to be recognized on earth. The only next stronger, most powerful contract to that is the contract that one makes with herself. And with this contract, this is where you also are encouraged to make a contract with yourself, a lien. And each one of you are at least worth $1 trillion at this time. So you write up a simple contract to yourself that the first $1 trillion that you make or what have you comes to you, that you have this first right. And this is the most binding contract ever known to man. It's between you and yourself, and no other party can come in to this contract unless you allow them to. But you're never going to allow another to come into your own personal contract. So it needs to be recognized in every court of law, if you will, because it is a binding contract. And again, on earth, everything you do is a contract, the most powerful contract that anyone can ever make. So you place a lien of recognition upon yourself to keep it home. And that is the English version. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and is there anything else that you want to reference on the lien before I stop sharing the screen?
Oh, not now.
All right, I'll stop
Nothing
sharing
yet
this.
now.
Yeah, great. There we are. I don't know if there's any questions on Facebook. Did you check, sister?
Oh, I check it now.
All right.
No, not yet.
All right. So, oh, look, I did have only 3 notes. I'll just see what I had written here. Um, Austria legal system failed its duty of care. Yeah, it's a obligatory duty, and all in not only your case and other moms that are also becoming forward, and even others. I suspect. Uh, I got wrote down the prosecutor's office right now in Austria has a big problem. There was some sort of referenced a restructuring or something was put out in the news today. Not sure fully what that is yet. Uh,
Me either, because it's the first time they do it. It looks like something like a detached prosecutor.
an independent, perhaps, prosecutor.
Yes, they say that, normally everything in court, meaning like all the courts and also all the prosecutors are under the justice ministry, right? So they say they want something that is detached, where not the highest one, like the justice ministry or the leader of the justice ministry, is deciding it. They want to make it independent. So they created a state prosecutor office, something
But
similar to that. But the thing is, it's the first time ever they created it. So that
but
was the
this
implication.
this still does not remedy the huge problem for the simple reason, and this is with the international court. Independent jurisdiction cannot fully be obtained with this current worldwide system of artificial laws. For one of the reasons, because of the capitalistic system of finance and money, there is always a conflict of interest. So when we go, because this worldwide system of capitalism, when you go to the what are supposed to be independent judges in the world court, they actually are paid by the nations that are part of this, which is, I believe, perhaps 193 nations. So here's what occurs: a judge cannot be independent because a conflict of interest is created by who pays him. And who pays them is actually the other nations. So it's important for ones to realize that the only true independence would be for a judge not being paid any type of money at all in this capitalistic world. But that does not work. See, it's a judge, when there's a conflict of interest, this means the judges can be influenced by who pays them. And that's why you don't get justice in this capitalistic system and artificial man-made laws, because the provisions are not there for true justice and an independent decision. This is why we have gpms.world, which is the replacement system, which is the divine simplified system of laws that is based on the unalienable rights, and those are upheld as the foundation of law. But also with GPMS, with the replacement system, everyone is paid the same amount of money from their self, contributing to the worldwide community. And the amount of money that they are paid is substantial. It's above what anyone earns now in a month. And everyone then is in complete abundance, but you're in complete joy, you're in complete peace worldwide, you're in complete health, and you're also in complete wealth and abundance with no lack. So it's very important, everyone watching this, to know what divine-gpms.world is. And what it is a current referendum, but it's a ratification process that is gathering worldwide all of the individual consents that wants this new free and abundant world, where we are tangibly gathering all of the consents. It is inevitable that we reach the majority, and this new simple system of money and law is enacted into law because the majority supports and agrees with it. So you now have a choice, everyone, worldwide. What do you want? This current worldwide system of man-made laws that is creating so much suffering, and the current capitalistic worldwide system of money and all of its ridiculous attributes that is causing suffering, poverty, and what have you? Or do you want this free world where all of that doesn't exist? Absolute peace, working together, abundance, everything you have. So if you want this, you need to consent. Every individual, every child's consent counts as a vote as well, so that we get this done. We have the replacement system, but for this to be enacted into law, it requires the physical, tangible majority vote worldwide. Once we have that majority vote, all of this evil system is done. It's over, and everyone is happy, free, and abundant. Uh, I'll share the screen again of Divine. Yeah, so here we are, divine-gpms.world, and you can open it up and you can read what it involves. Simple divine law. We have some of it in there. We don't have all of it yet. Uh, you can find out more, but we have the consent tab. Oh, up here. Yeah. So you have the consent tab. If you wish to consent, it only takes about 3 minutes just to fill out your consent, which is your vote to agree to ratify this worldwide. And you can see here, old versus new. It is a great page to visit. So you can also see the type of world that you are voting for and that you are agreeing that you want. So this is a good place. I'll just open up that tab for just one quick moment. So here's some of the things. The old system says what you have now in the pink, this new system, you keep it all. And here's a very important one, number two. So in this current world and with Austria, you have taxes. In this new replacement system, there are no taxes whatsoever. Taxes do not exist, nor are they required worldwide. And I'll just go to the next one. So you have debt now in the world. With this new system, there is no debt. It's unlimited funding for the simple reason money is just created instantly out of thin air. And that's how it really works. And this new system is giving all of this value back to the individuals and done in a responsible but abundant, comfortable way. Uh, so anyone can look down. There are no mortgages. It's all free funding. There is no longer any debt. So you can, anyone may wish to just scroll down there, and you can see all of the differences, and that you can see in the pink what you are actually voting for. And of course, our website is still under evolution, is what we call it, because at times we are adding some new things as the intelligence of consciousness progresses as well, and as more awaken to more of the lies and are ready for the truth. We show them that we have the that we have the actual plan and the guidelines and for the new replacement system worldwide, where there is no child protection services. None of that is needed, and there are no public schools. the children get, with the great technology we have today, the children can learn so quick, as in Sister Nya's case, that, the computers and the access to the information and the homeschooling and the children don't need to be educated to be
Relearn.
a slave to a system. Yeah, they have their freedom, but with that, their own ingenuity and their ingenuity is unlocked, their full creative ability. The children are free to discover and learn what they wish to learn. And because of that, they excel very quickly in their consciousness and in their learning, because they are, again, they are free. They're not being conformed into a capitalistic control system and being a slave. Yeah. So, do we have anything to add? We went through the lean pretty good. And do you have anything to add?
No, all fine. You did
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you. And you did amazing as well. Um, and, a couple things with the contract, I went into those. Contract is rather pretty simple, and I, I believe I covered that enough there. Anyone having any questions, if you haven't, is there any, not on Facebook? If you have any questions, you can send us
Yes.
messages. Let me see. Any questions? Uh, oh, you can see it good. Now there's only one comment. Yeah, onto it. All right. Well, I believe we got this covered for tonight. How did we do? We weren't 3 hours. How long were we tonight?
Maybe 2.5. I'm not
Oh,
quite
wow.
sure.
All right. With this, we'll love, light, and gratitude, everyone,
Love
and
everyone.
we'll be putting out more educational tools and things, but we're at such a point that this is so significant, that all of you with your children, you should be getting them back very soon. However, if you don't, we have the tools, and what I wish to say is that Sister Nya and I are not alone. And let's say there's a lot of background support you don't see yet, um, on Earth and also above, I wish to say. But nevertheless, we'll end this live stream. And once again, love, light, and gratitude, everyone, for joining. And I gotta find the button. All right, there it is.